Now, the very last misconception, which I think is a very, very important one to understand, is when you pass away, your RSP will automatically transfer to your beneficiaries tax-free. This is not actually always the case. There are some special rules when it comes to this. Now, the very first thing to understand is if you have a spouse, then your spouse can automatically roll over your RSP upon you passing away over to them. And essentially the way that this would work is it goes through the process called a spousal rollover, where it essentially defers any sort of taxes that are owed on that money that's sitting in the RSP until either they start to withdraw it out of the RSP or until they pass away. So this is more of a tax deferral situation rather than a tax-free situation. Now, let's say, for example, you have your RSP and the beneficiaries of your RSP are not your spouse. Let's say it's your kids, or if you have nieces and nephews, or a friend, or whoever it ends up being that is not your spouse. What actually happens in this situation? The way that this is dealt with, the government actually deems as if you withdrew all of the money out of the RSP the day before you passed away. So what that actually means is that when you pass away, let's say, for example, you had $250,000 sitting in your RSP upon passing away, and it's going to the beneficiaries that are not a spouse. What ends up happening is the estate has to claim $250,000 worth of income in the year of passing away, and the estate is responsible for paying the taxes that are owed on that $250,000. So what essentially ends up happening is the money that is in the RSP actually gets distributed to the beneficiaries, and they are not responsible for paying the taxes on the RSP. It's actually the estate's responsibility for doing that. Now, what you'll find though is in a lot of situations, there isn't enough money in the estate to cover the tax liability of the RSPs that were distributed. So what actually ends up happening is the beneficiaries then become responsible for paying those taxes, because at the end of the day, taxes are owed on that money. This is really where having an understanding of what your estate is going to include and what that entails, so then you know whether or not your beneficiaries are going to be paying taxes on the RSP distributions themselves, or whether or not your estate is going to have enough already to pay for those taxes.